big Batman.
So was I.
You know, that's all you could watch. Couldn't watch anybody on there would look like us.
Yeah,
But
exactly.
now,
But he had on the black mask. Though,
yeah,
you know,
that's
so.
as close as you get. Good morning, Pastor Hobbs. How are you, sir?
Good morning. I am phenomenal by the grace of God.
Good, good. And looking sharp, too.
Thank you, sir. I appreciate that.
Looking sharp as usual.
I'm telling you, he's clean. Man.
I know,
Yeah,
I know.
God,
I'm only adding to that, right? Yeah.
I mean, I try to stay as far away I can from him. You know what I mean? I can't get too close.
Anyway.
My Lord,
Yeah,
my Lord.
yeah, I mean, some folks-
look at the handkerchief in
That's what I'm
the
saying,
jacket,
even-
man,
even when
and
they're
the hat.
casual, yeah.
You know what I mean?
Hey, listen, if you go underneath the table, you might get bit.
Hey, I'm not going there, Doc.
You might have some gators in there.
That's right. All right, I hear you. Brother have on kind. I never seen a blue gator, man. My brother have all kind of gators on.
That's when you know you have right. All right, we're going to have him do our prayer in a second. But first, we want to thank our sponsor, Guaranteed Rate Mortgage Company. For all your mortgage needs, give branch manager Cora Holbrook a call at area code 781-342-0252. Guaranteed Mortgage is located at 75 State Street in downtown Boston, Mass. Thank you, Pastor. Guaranteed Mortgage Company, guaranteed to exceed your expectations. They're going to be in studio with us next week, Dr. Bradley. We're going to be partnering with them at Mamleo to do a first-time home buyers workshop with them. Yeah, so if you have any family members, any friends, anybody out there that is open to the public, it is free of charge. And most folks don't realize is that if you've been a homeowner for over 3 years, at least three to 5 years, you still qualify as a first-time home buyer. So you, yes, it's some people are.
That information I didn't know that.
Static
Yeah.
is in there, unfortunately.
Okay.
Yeah,
So
I
we'll-
didn't know that, but that's good to know.
Yeah, so if you're a homeowner and you're thinking about buying again, you can come and participate. If you don't own a home, you can come and participate. It's going to be located. So we're going to have more information about that later in the broadcast. And like I said, they'll be here next week to answer any of your questions. And she's got some other folks to come in to support that endeavor as well. And in our 8 o'clock hour, we're going to have Rhodes Pierre is going to be coming in studio. He's a financial literacy and advocate champion educator for an ace for financial literacy. Rhodes Pierre, who's an advocate, he's going to be coming into the studio to kind of guide you through this troubling times when we don't know what's happening in the arena as far as our finances and stuff. We all could use a little help there.
We all could use a little help, and we all got to be aware of what's going on in that arena, how to use our money.
Absolutely.
Because we have a system that really focus on keeping the wealth out of our hands,
Right.
So what little we have to know how to use it.
Right.
And use it to our best.
And with all this instability in the world, people don't realize, like I didn't realize, listening to some of the things that with all this unrest going on in Ukraine and that travesty, we'll talk about with that a little bit, that a lot of our finances are invested in companies that we had no idea that were attached to this. So people's portfolios, if you have.
Absolutely, which is why I always say we need to be a little bit more cognizant, aware of where our monies are.
Absolutely.
And how we spend our money. And one of the problems that we have as people of color, I would just say black people in America, black Americans, we tend to spend and not invested in
We're
such
consumers.
a way that well, yeah, pretty much. So we need to know, understand our spending power, but also know where your money is.
I agree. Pastor Hobbs, sir, if you would be so kind.
Father God, we thank you for your grace, for your mercy. We thank you that you are all powerful, that you're all knowing, and you're very present help in the time. Father, we thank you for this preordained divine appointment, and we ask you to bless this our time, that you're glorified in and through all that's said and done, and we count this as done in the matchless name of your Son, Jesus. Amen.
Amen. I want to say a warm and hearty welcome and good morning to Brother Harry Scales there. I know he's waking up the house. That brother is an avid listener. I was talking to him the other day. We're going to get and talk about that a little bit at Billy Celeste's, the late Billy Celeste's homegoing. And, he's talking about how much he enjoys the show. It's amazing. I've ran into a lot of people, Dr. Bradley. They missed you in the broadcast, but that actually tune into the show. Some of the folks shocked me.
Oh, yeah?
That they listen. They
Oh,
say,
yeah?
I would never call in, but I
Don't want to hear my voice on the radio.
I
huh?
enjoy the show, you
Yeah,
know,
I hear you.
and get the calls when we have a rebroadcast or we're not in. They slowly miss. So also,
Yeah, I really missed it. I was obligated to teach for the last couple of weekends at Curry College. I designed a course around ethics in policing,
Oh.
and it was like a capstone course.
Is there a conflict between the two? Because
Boy, a significant conflict. And I was trying to make sure that the younger people who are trying to get into the profession understand that there's such thing as ethics that you have to that should go along with you as a professional.
Yeah.
And unfortunately, that's not taught at the academy.
Right. Well, it's interesting you say that because, with this whole post, which I am one of the inaugural commissioners on, it's amazing to me how little interest that people are taking in this serious as they should. Because this is going to be, it's no longer just your department deciding your behavior. There is a whole different group and laws that abide on how you behave, and people are so comfortable with making a phone call. That's not the case
Well,
anymore.
and I think that's the situation, is that you have people who are generational in policing.
Yeah.
They can always tap into
Absolutely.
ma or grandpa or great grandpa and who makes a call,
Absolutely.
and things are going away.
Right.
That's not going to be the situation.
Absolutely. So before we go any further,
We're going to go to Indiana.
well, listen, we are packing our bags. We are getting up to 32,000 feet, and it's a cloudy ceiling, but we're going to get above the clouds, Dr.
yeah.
Bradley, and
We're
we
gonna-
are heading where?
Indiana.
Here we come.
I just see the brother just gave us
Indiana, here we come.
text,
Yeah,
right?
how appropriate is that, right? Talking about that we sent it telepathy, right?
Yeah, exactly.
We're
Exactly.
going back down to Indiana. So good morning, Brother Bridgeforth, and the folks in Indiana there. Back to Indiana. I always think about the Jacksons when. So I said good morning to the brother. He said perfect timing. He was texting, and we're sending out our well wishes to him and his family and all those folks down in Indiana and around the world who are listening to the Roundtable member. I want to say hearty good morning to her sister Mary Franklin. She has
Is she on the front page here? Is that her?
No, I think that's.
Oh, that's not. That's Ayanna.
Ron Presley.
Yeah.
Oh man, you gonna get some calls now.
Hey man, listen. I'm over 60. I have a right to ask
For full disclosure, that was Dr. Bradley. This is not a rebroadcast. Dr. Bradley. He did. For full disclosure as well, he did say glaucoma runs in his family.
That's right. So, I have to say,
blame it on that.
Yeah, I just blame it on my illness.
But she was
Condition,
able.
rather.
She did get her a new dog this week, and she sent the picture. So
okay.
it is definitely brightening up her day. So good morning to her. And she's doing better. So that's great. Always when folks are going through some things and having a good day, always happy to see that. So we're gonna talk about little Dr. Bradley. Like I said, last Sunday was Billy Celesta, the late Billy Celesta's homecoming going, and I want to thank Leonard Lee for all the work he put into it, as well as the Celesta family, and a really, truly, and heartfelt thanks to Jamal Crawford for putting together the program, but also just all the work he put into this. I mean, it was just to the community support, but folks like himself who stepped up. I mean, immediately, said, "Hey, we need help with this," and he said, "Hey, what can I do?" And there's no cost. I mean, that's very rare that people step out and step in.
Well, that's a testament to how good Billy was.
Well, exactly.
That's really what it is. Billy was good people.
And that's what he said. I'm doing this for Billy.
Yeah.
Billy helped him. He never forgot it. So, and he started connecting the dots. But so there's an article in this week's edition of the Bay State Banner by Yawu Miller. It says, community turns out for Billy Celesta's wake. The procession of well-wishers paying their respects to the late William Billy Celesta Sunday was a who's who of prominent Bostonians, elected officials, Roxbury luminaries, police brass, and rank-and-file officers filed through Morningstar Baptist Church for a memorial service honoring the former Area B commander. Newark, New Jersey Public Safety Director Brian O'Hara led a contingent of 13 officers from the city who came to pay their respects to Celesta, who in the 1990s served as commissioners there, and delivered a proclamation from Mayor Ross Baraka and Newark City Council Mustafa Farrakhan, son of the Nation of Islam minister Louis Farrakhan, flew in from Chicago to deliver his father's respects. Former Boston Police Commissioner William Gross and Paul Evans, Mayor Michelle Wu, State Senator Nick Collins, and City Councilor Ed Flynn were among those in attendance. Jeffrey Lopes, the current president of the Massachusetts Association of Minority Law Enforcement Officers, a group Celeste founded in the 1970s, read a proclamation from the Massachusetts legislature. But it was Celeste's fellow Roxbury residents whose recollections delivered some of the most poignant moments during the 2-hour service. Attorney James Dilday recalled a friendship with Celeste that went back to elementary school days, when the two played basketball and baseball at Columbus Park. "He was my buddy," Dilday said. "He was always a gentleman. He always gave himself to others." Dilday, a defense attorney, took a different path than Celeste, often defending those who Celeste sought to lock up. He recalled at the height of the crack epidemic in Boston, when dealers occupied the streets around Grove Hall, often terrifying the residents. Celeste proposed a strategy of stopping and frisking and arresting known gang members, a strategy Dilday told him would backfire, as defense attorneys would challenge stops made without a reasonable suspicion. He said, quoting, "They're disrespecting the elderly," Billy said. "People are frightened." Dilday recalled, "I told him, if you do this, it's going to backfire." While Celeste drew fire from civil rights advocates and eventually withdrew the policy, Dilday said he was nevertheless able to claim victory. He said, "I took their drugs, I took their money, I took their guns. The people in the neighborhood are as happy as they can be. Who's the winner?" Celeste said. Dilday
That
said,
sounds like Billy.
Dilday said, "That's the spirit of Billy Celeste, a man whose life was spent serving others." Nation of Islam student Minister Rodney Muhammad recalled the close relationship Celeste had with the Muhammad's Mosque number 11. Minister Don Muhammad noting that the two of them developed a community policing model later adopted by the city and propagated across the country. "He built a bridge, a relationship with the police like never before," Muhammad said. "We thank God for the life of Billy Celeste and the work he did with the community leaders to reduce violence and crime," said Minister Randy Muhammad, who now leads Muhammad's Mosque number 11. While too young to remember Celeste's time in Area B, State Senator Nick Collins told the gathering Sunday that he relied on Celeste's counsel when approaching criminal justice reform legislation that passed in 2020. While Collins was helping to draft a bill creating the Massachusetts Peace Officers Standards and Training Commission, Celeste made sure that there was a permanent seat for a representative of Mamleo on the commission. "I'm forever grateful for his counsel and guidance," Collins said. Former Mamleo President Larry Ellison, who now sits on the Post Commission, recalls sitting with Celeste at Morningstar in 2018 when the city swore in its first black police commissioner, William Gross. "He looked at me with the biggest smile on his face," said Ellison. "He knew how much things had changed in this city," Ellison said. In the recollection of those gathered at Morningstar, remained committed to the advancement of black police officers in the black community. "He had no problem saying what was on his mind," Rodney Muhammad said. "He never scratched where he didn't itch. He was a powerful black man." On Saturday, the Boston Police Department issued a statement marking Celeste's passing. As one of the original African-American members of the PPD command staff, Celeste was a mentor to many officers while assisting in diversifying the department to reflect the community it serves. And the statement reads in part, "In each rank the Deputy Superintendent Celeste held, he built a positive relationship with the community members across the city." Celeste's funeral procession on Monday morning made its way from Riley Antoine Funeral Home on Humboldt Ave to Oak Lawn Cemetery in Rosendale, where Celeste was interred. You know, that says a lot about the man.
Mm-hmm.
Says a lot about what's going on. Now,
You know, my mother used to always say to me, you would know how much people appreciate an individual after he's gone.
she's so right.
You know what I mean?
She's
The
so
things
right.
that are said after he's gone. Not when he's here, but the things that are said after the person is gone would be much more evident of how much he was
Much more
appreciated.
poignant, right.
Yeah.
Yeah, 617-282-0685, 617-282-0685 is the number here. You know, sadly though, Dr. Bradley, reality is not too far in the waiting. So this is why the work that Billy and others did and we continue to do today, and the leadership at Mamleo, our current president, Dr. Jeffrey Lopes. This article came out on March 8th. The Good Old Boy Network lives very well. Boston City works to decry culture of nepotism. Boston City workers cry of the culture of nepotism. And the article reads as following. Boston City employees of color Tuesday spoke out against a culture of unfair treatment within the city departments during a hearing that propagated promotional practices. In reality, there is no equal opportunity, because if I go into the institution plus of 6 years, they turn around and give the position to another one, Hector Mejia said, who currently works for Public Works Department, at the council hearing that was conducted virtually Tuesday morning. Mejia recalled being told that he was wasting his time pursuing a position because the department brass had already knew who they wanted. He also said that the treatment that he was saddened when he was told the treatment for and threatened for testifying about the nepotism, told by colleagues that it could get a lot worse if you speak out. You're not.
I've heard that one before.
I know you have.
That hasn't changed.
I know you have. That's it. So he goes on. They go on to say, if you're not part of the clique, they're just going to blackball you. That testimony occurred at a hearing focused on proposed ordinance to eliminate conflicts of interest and implicit biases in the hiring and practices, the established rules for employment and promotion and merit, experience, and job performance. The measure was proposed by Julia Mejia and Ricardo Arroyo. During the hearing, Jeffrey Lose, a Boston police detective who is the current president of MAMLEO, described a notable lack of diversity in the supervisor roles at the Boston Police Department. A third of the department identified.
Has not changed.
Right.
I've been going for 11 years. We've
Yeah.
got the same conversation.
Right. So a third of the departments identifies as black, indigenous, or people of color, but the diversity is not reflected in the department's leadership and rank and file. Less than 9% of those holding the rank of captain, for instance, identify. There is no BIPOC cop in Boston who currently holds the rank of captain detective, Loeb said, and only one holds the rank of lieutenant. The city needs to eliminate the politics from hiring and promotion and specialized units, he said. There is too much political influence in how these things are conducted within the Boston Police Department. Written testimony from Boston Police Officer Guerrero. Residents struck a similar thing. Guerrero wrote that the promotions within the department seem to be based on either who you know or familiar ties. Familiar ties, rather. Boston EMS Lieutenant Dennis Bynum said he has been stymied in how he was not able to move further up in the ranks on 10 different occasions. He labeled the promotional process horrible. The Good Old Boy Network has worked very well, said Bynum, a 36-year veteran of Boston EMS. In the words of Jerome Hargrove, president of Local Lodge 100, represents the Boston Water and Sewer Workers, loyalties also play a big part. Things don't get looked into. Boston Fire Captain Darrell Higginbottom, the president of the Vulcans, the minority firefighters, which represents black and brown firefighters, said preference in the civil service system create unintended consequences that limit diversity in departments like the Boston Fire Department, which has come under criticism in recent years, overwhelming white and male. So it goes on, but the point is well taken. This sort of saying is that here the week that we laid Billy Celeste to rest, one of the founders of MAMLEO, co-founders of MAMLEO, we are still dealing with the same discrimination, the same disparities, the lack of movement in law enforcement and city government. I mean, and we have a new mayor.
That's city government that you're paying into, by the way.
Right. We have a new mayor who said, things are going to be different. And it's sad to say, I wish I could say that, we're seeing a difference. I'm not seeing it,
I mean, I haven't been there since 2010, but that is a familiar conversation.
Does it sound like
Familiar
2010?
commentary. I mean, same thing. And it amazes me how the Good Old Boy Network can be very resilient and firm in place, firmly in place. It is really sad, but if you're going to be a top of the line of first class city, you got to have a department, especially a police department, that has the authority to take one's rights. Although it may be for a brief period of time until that person has been adjudicated. But my point here is that it should look like the community that it's serving. And I mentioned that when I sat on the Zoom call for the next police commissioner. That individual, in my opinion, got to be really ready and forceful in making sure that he or she eradicate that Good Old Boy Network. And good luck to whoever that person is. They're going to need support because that Good Old Boy Network is in place, and it's in place. It has a protection mechanism
Right.
but we all don't see. But they protect each other.
Right. Well, I mean, as we're seeing around the country, and laws and things that are being changed and implemented to put things back the way they were, and the regression that they're saying that these things don't exist, and that laws are basically saying you can't even talk about racism, you can't talk about discrimination, as if it's gone away. That somehow people just talking about them is victimizing. You don't want to talk about the reality of what these things did to people and continue to do to people, but you want to say that you're a victim of it.
Yeah, pretty much. They want to protect the so-called the innocence of the children. Not to know the history of their of their elders. And it's a sad situation, but we can't stand by and let that happen, because all throughout the history, we have prevailed. We have even during slavery, it was forbidden for us to learn how to read or write. But people learn how to read and write. You know what I mean? So we have to be able to. We have to stand fast. And we have to continue to move forward.
Right. Well, the other part to that, Dr. Bradley, is that, the recourse that we've had, like with the ACLU, the Lawyers for Civil Rights and such, right, are under attack. And we went to the courts for regress when these things happen. We're seeing a shift in these courts. We're seeing that the courts are being packed with people who, not about the law, but about ideas, right, and what they think is the right manner that they want to see this country going into. Because if you look at just the city of Boston alone, the amount of money that they've been paying out in discrimination suits for the drug hair tests, for promotions, things of that nature, the lawsuits that have been brought, clearly there's a problem. And their answer is, well, when we get caught, we give the taxpayers' monies are the ones who put this. We don't fix the problem.
Yep.
We just pay when we get caught, and someone forces us to pay.
And they don't want to fix the problem, brother. Trust me, they don't want to fix the problem, because fixing the problem would mean losing authority, losing power, losing wealth. Access, give other people access to resources. They don't want to fix the problem. They'd rather compensate the person who was most, vociferous or loud about the situation, pay that person off, let that individual just fade back into the darkness, and keep the situation as it is.
Right, but you see the comment in where. And I know when one of the folks in the article there, when he was talking about, when someone told him you'll pay a price for speaking out, right?
Always the case.
Right.
But over the last 6 months, in addition to my education, I have taken an extra step in preparation for some work I will be doing on American Black history. And I've been reading volumes of American history, and some of the things that I'm coming across, I was like, I consider myself to be a well-educated and erudite man. I didn't know this, and it's because things are hidden from you, throughout our structure.
But that's why they don't want the truth about this country.
They don't want it.
The history of this country, the real truth.
Because the question becomes, how can you discover something that has already been discovered? How can you have a new world when the new world is new to you, but it's not new to the people that are here?
Right.
You know what I mean? So when you start looking at the very foundation on which this country is built, it cannot say.
Well, the foundation is our backs.
That's where I'm going. That's exactly where I'm going. And when you look at the fact that everything that this country did and to actually advance itself was done because of slavery.
Yeah.
The Louisiana Purchase Territory, it was because of slavery. Florida, it was because of slavery. Texas, slavery. So the desire to expand land, and then land becomes nothing but dirt and rock unless you actually can deforest that land and then make it productive. And who did the work for that? People that look like you and me, that look like us. That's the reality. I mean, that's really it. So when you start to talk about that, it makes some people uncomfortable because they was given, for instance, let me just give you this one. When America was a colony of Britain, of England, the English Parliament would they would authorize companies to actually ship people from the colony from England over to the colony. Prior to leaving England, they would give them a grant for 100 acres of land. And now you're thinking about the Indians now, who already has it. They just give them a grant for 100 acres of land, so when they get there, they claim this land. So when you start thinking about it, the very first affirmative action, as you define affirmative action, the very first affirmative action was for all white folks.
coming here to actually colonize
Someone said
America.
it still is, but
Yeah, but they say that you have affirmative action. They related to, you think of a black individual, but that started the whole gap in wealth. You know what I mean? So you have free land, you have slaves who are going to actually work the land without compensation. There's your wealth gap right there. I'm just saying.
No, you're saying right. I mean, and the more I learn, like I was listening to PR the other day, and there was another town, and I got to pull it up, in Virginia, where the Tulsa was not the first.
Oh no,
I mean,
no.
this was a common practice.
No. Actually, Tulsa was also one in Florida, but Tulsa was not the first.
Right.
Tulsa was one of the first that was recognized by black people of establishment that says this is like a Wall Street,
Right.
Because the dollar turned hands in the black community for more than 30 times,
Right.
and that was the piece. And that's why I always say that we have to be wise about our buying power, because our buying power is an awesome power in a capitalist society.
Yeah, speaking of it, good morning, caller. Welcome to the roundtable. Caller, you there?
And I'm right here.
Okay. Good morning.
How are you this morning?
Good morning. Good morning, Pastor Walker. How are you?
I'm good.
Good. You
Well-
went away. Good.
As always, Dr. Bradley's history is spot on. He's absolutely right. There was.
I'm just writing this down for historic preservation.
Historic preservation.
Yes.
That I agree with Dr. Bradley.
Yes.
I agree with Dr. Bradley a lot.
No.
He agrees with me once every blue moon.
Yeah.
True.
So he's correct about the history. But I think one of the things that he left out, though, and it's not really his fault, the whole world is founded in transgression. Adam and the woman transgressed. Everything that we are is fruit from that poison tree.
Right, but I guess the point of getting past any transgressions in your life, right, is just like in the church arena, right, is admitting those transgressions and asking for forgiveness, right? And we don't see that. We don't see that in this country.
I don't think America has ever apologized to the black population for the transgressions, and I don't really believe that America will truly ever be blessed until it does.
But not only, Dan, do they not want to apologize, they want to pass laws in states like Texas and other in Texas, Florida, in places of such that to even talk about it will criminalize you. To talk about it.
People are always trying to pass laws that don't
Not
make any
trying
sense.
to. They're passing them. They're passing them, and they're hiding behind. Let me just finish this, and I'll let you. They're hiding behind an analogy that I learned as Dr. Bradley
go ahead.
Dr. Bradley as well learned in the police academy, which I was not aware of. Going back in time when private citizens were charged with going down to the constable, which was at that time equivalent to our courts. If I didn't like something you or Dr. Bradley was doing in your home, or I thought you were doing up to some nefarious going on, I could go down there and get a warrant as a private citizen and go in there and raid your house and go look in there whether I had any truth to it or not. So what they're doing is saying, hey, it's not the government that is coming at you. It's your neighbor we're empowering with these laws, to violate your privacy. So we're not doing it, but your laws pass allowing them to sue you for different things. So this is a very scary and slippery slope that we're traveling down with these laws. And, the government is trying to be cute and coy about it. And we have the Supreme Court, the highest court in the land, saying it's okay.
Well, the bad Supreme Court decisions aside, because the Supreme Court has made bad decisions all throughout its history.
Dred Scott is one of them.
Pardon?
Dred Scott was one of them, but go on.
Well, the Dred Scott decision was certainly one of them. Separate but equal was another one. So there are several. That being said, the other thing that came to mind as he was speaking is we agree that how can you discover a land that's already there? We absolutely agree on that. But when it comes to where do we go from here? I mean, New Hampshire just tried to succeed from the Union. It didn't work, but they just tried to succeed. The state of New Hampshire tried to have itself declared sovereign land. Pardon?
Good. No, good. You were finished.
And succeed from the Union. So these type of things, people are always going to be quote unquote trying things. But I think what we have to keep in perspective, especially people of God, is that none of this nonsense, none of these false things can get by as long as people of God are praying and staying faithful. And even if some ridiculous law is passed or some ridiculous restriction is placed on us, people of God have a moral obligation and a spiritual obligation not to follow those edicts.
Yeah, well, that's easier said than done, because we have a lot of folks who know what something is wrong, and in this country are continuing to follow that just because that's what they want to believe. So that sounds
yes,
good.
It takes one. I mean, during the pandemic, churches were told to close and to limit their their occupancy. New Bethel Baptist Church never closed its doors one Sunday, and the only limit to our occupancy was based on the people coming. I told the whole congregation, and I told the city fathers, if you wish to arrest me, please do it on a Sunday morning, because you know where I'm going to be, which is in the pulpit. Our doors are not closing. Period. End of story.
Okay.
And I think if more churches had done that, then we would have had a better. Let me say, I want to get it right. I think we would have represented the God that we say we serve much better.
Well, I think that's a matter of opinion. And with that said, we're going to bring another caller in. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the roundtable.
Good morning. How y'all doing?
Good morning, Brother Jamal. Again, I don't know if you heard. I was saying on the air, thanking you for all the work that you put in Bill's homegoing.
Yes, indeed. I definitely heard it.
I appreciate it.
Absolutely. And once again, like you were there when I told Leonard, I mean, I don't need thanks. I didn't do it for y'all.
No, I know you didn't, but
I appreciate it. But what I'm saying is, he's the reason for the season.
Right.
You know what I mean?
I got you. Understood.
So it's nothing but love. That's like the least I could do.
Right.
You know what I mean?
But I mean,
so that's nothing.
I say that because, you know why? But see, here's the thing, Jamal. He did that for so many people, right? And they showed him nothing but other than love. And that's why I guess it stands out so much when people are willing to do what you did for people like me, because I know how much it really meant to me and to others. And there are a lot of folks who were helped by him, but when it wasn't popular to be with him, when it wasn't popular, like people told me that I was endangering my career by being with Billy Celeste. And that's one of the best moves, because the education I got from that man is why I am somewhat who I am today. So
and it's sad because you're right, everybody's not a stand-up person, and my mother and others have always told me, sometimes like I get hurt in my life because you do good by a person and they don't do good by you, but that's because your expectation is that they're gonna be like you. Right. But everybody ain't that. So you might do good to somebody and the favor's never returned, and you got to chalk that up. But for those of us that actually do have a moral compass and character and whatnot, and particularly, let's think about it like this too. If I was a chef, I would have did the catering, right? Because it's like you can offer a skill you have, right? I couldn't do something for him that is out of my skill set. Yeah. You see what I'm saying? But if I am a graphic designer, the least I could do is help out with the graphics. Right. You know what I mean? Right. So that to me is like the way that we as a people and a community should be thinking. And not for nothing, for me, like you say, sometimes people pick and chose like when it was popular to deal with somebody. Well, one thing I know for sure, when he helped me, it was certainly unpopular for him to be dealing with me. Right. Okay? Well, so he took a risk on me. Right. And for me, I never anything that happened in his life, I didn't look at him any differently because I knew the man.
Right. No, I mean, he's the reason why I think, I was able to be open to having relationships when you and I didn't know each other, right? And you look where our relationship is today because of Billy Celeste saying, hey, these are folks from the community. You need to talk to them whether you agree with what they're saying or their statements or not. That's what I learned from him, is being open to hearing everyone, right? Regardless of whether you believe what they're saying. But the other thing I want to get your take on too is, Jamal, this article that just came out this week. It's ironic that it's the week we lay Billy to rest. The Good Old Boy Network has worked very well. Boston City workers cry the culture of nepotism here in the city of Boston, and this is why I've been saying about folks aren't going to be patient much longer with Mayor Wu in changing the dynamics in Boston. I know it's been a little over 100 days, but it's not like she's someone coming in from the outside who wasn't aware of these problems, and it really comes down to putting the right people in the right place. Like you said, when they said there'll never be another Billy Celeste in the Boston Police Department, those of us who know what they're talking about, it doesn't mean a person of color with 3 or 4 stars on their shoulder. It means someone who will advocate and work with the community in the way that Billy did, because they saw that as threatening, because with that came power.
Okay, let me tie in what I called in for and tie that right into that.
Okay.
So y'all were kind of talking a little bit about really where it was going was the reparations issue, and that, you know, America has never apologized. So first of all, I just want folks to know that America did apologize, right? That was back in 2008. Now, the issue was for activists such as myself at the time is I don't want no stinking apology. I want my stuff. so when you did your breakdown, you know, like a law enforcement thing from a church perspective, right? You know, in order to get forgiveness or whatever, you first got to admit your wrongdoing. Right. You have to ask for forgiveness.
Right.
The other part of that, though, is too, then you also have to do compensation. Right? Which is what reparations is. Look, hey, Larry, man, I'm sorry, man. Last weekend, I broke into your house. I stole your TV. I sincerely apologize. Don't you want your TV back? Right? So, and don't you want me to fix the window that I broke to go in and get the TV? So there's damage done, and then there's also damage that you can't undo. So, for instance, to use the breaking analogy, let's say a kid is there, the kid is the break, and the kid's scared. The thief can't give back the kid's sense of security. The kid's gonna be scared, you know, and people are scarred. So once again, in the issue of slavery, there were things that damages. I don't know whose that is in the background. It's crazy. The damage that's been done in the case of slavery and what happened to us here in America, and since Jim Crow, and you know, and is happening up to this minute. Some of that is not repairable, but you have to be able to provide compensation to kind of mitigate the damages. Now, flow that on into the Boston thing. Fixing all these things.
Dan, hold on a second, Jamal. Dan, is that your phone? That in the background?
Yeah, hang on, I'm going to mute it.
Okay, thanks.
But I do want to add some history, though, as he go right before Jamal starts, because I think this is a big piece here. He's right in the sense that America did apologize verbally to us, but they only went 50% of the way. Now I'm gonna give you 2 pieces of history where they actually went to 100% of the way. The Japanese, they paid them $20,000 plus an employee plus an apology, and the Seminole Indians of Florida, they paid actually in 1990 they paid up to $56 million for the land that was taken from them in the 1880s from Florida. So, and an apology. So those are 2 incidents in history where America actually did the right thing for those folks, but they never ever apologized in its entirety to the black population of America. Just want to put that in there.
This only came out of the House of Representatives, and for those who may remember, Clinton almost did it, but then he got a frog in his throat, and gave some old half something. But my point is that an apology without fixing the damage is empty. It's empty rhetoric, you know, and as it is such in this city, and that's the point. How many people have we heard talking about fixing these issues? In my opinion, we don't need another study. We don't need another conference. We don't need another convention. We don't need another consultant.
Right.
Fix the doggone thing.
But that's what I'm saying.
Okay.
This hearing was just another placating because, see, you know, these city councils have these hearings and nothing happens. It's just hearing. That's why I don't participate any longer. It's a waste of my time. You
But
know?
what I'm saying is because that, see that, and this I'm trying to get at. Because changing something, look, Menino tried, you know, change some things for the better, some things for the worse. Walsh tried, you know, and now Michelle Wu is trying. And my point is, there is no magic wand that says, I'm now going to make the, you know, Boston Fire Department not racist. Hocus pocus. Yeah, so what I think is people come in with their varying degrees of whatever it is they're trying to change, and then you understand once you're in there, you can't legislate the hearts and minds of people. You can't. It's very, very difficult. Now, I know for me to see the city get away from nepotism and all this type of thing. Unfortunately, I don't want to be, depressing here, but it's going to be a next generation. We're going to have to, like what has happened in the police force, we're going to need a generation or two to die off, and then as new blood gets in, it will change.
No, I get that, but I guess, and I'm going to bring Dan back in. I get that, Jamal, but what I'm saying is that if you don't have people leading it, and the message is clear, we know we're not going to stop it. But if the message is clear, if you're participating in that this is the price you're going to pay, and everyone's going to pay the same price, that will quell some folks. But when folks feel like they can do whatever they want, like, you know, as it relates to behavior, and there are no consequences, then this is why it will take, you're right, generations to address this problem, and it's because it's not being addressed at the top. When you know that the folks at the top kind of, you know, are not warm to changing things, right? You got to come in here with a wrecking ball.
I think y'all talking about culture, in my opinion. You know, the culture is that this is a status quo.
Right.
You know, and you have some people frame it differently. Well, I'm a conservative. Well, the root conservative is the root word of conservatism. What are you conserving?
Right.
You're conserving that culture.
Right.
You know, that actually says, you know what, yoink, wink, nod, nod. This is why, Larry, the Post is so threatening to
Right.
policing,
Right.
because of the fact that it's going to say your culture is no longer valid. You have to, you know, and so you can't reach out and call daddy or grandpa or great grandpa. You have to deal with this issue, and this is why you see a lot of the old boys, you know, leaving policing,
right.
because they realize that they can't do what got them there.
Yeah.
They can't do for the other guy that looks like them, who are younger than them.
Right.
That's the issue. So we're talking about changing culture, and it's going to take time to do that.
That's the power. Dan, you want to weigh in?
I'm right here. Well, the issue that I have with reparations is I have yet to see.
It's payment in lieu of services, but you go ahead. You go ahead.
Why would there be an issue, though? I don't get it. Okay.
Well, let me frame my conversation my way, of course, and then you can change it as you wish.
Okay.
The case that I have seen for reparations is I have yet to see a workable model of how whatever you wish to call it is going to be handled in a fair and equitable manner. So, okay, let's say we agree to there's money agreed to be paid out. How and who gets that money? Jamal talked about getting his stuff back. In that situation, the problem with his argument is we know whose stuff it was, we know where it was taken, we knew who took it, so we know how to either get it back or to make sure he gets paid for what was taken. How do you repay the people who were enslaved? How do we track them? How do we track the ones who enslaved them? In other words, how do you make sure that the money is, or whatever you're giving back, is given back in a fair and equitable manner?
And my answer
one more part of this,
Okay.
and then where does the money come from?
Okay, let me just say this. The model has already been used. They used it when they did when they repaid back the Japanese. They used the same model when they repaid back the Seminole Indians. You can actually trace back who are the descendants of Africans who slaved and built this country. That has already been there. All right, and they just issued
huge checks, you know, for the pandemic.
Right.
The money is the United States print its own money.
Right.
Don't Dan? No, I don't agree with that, brother. I don't agree with that. We have already used the model that we need. It's already been used. It's already been polished, and it's already been implemented. It called reparation for the Japanese who actually served in internment camps in America. End of conversation.
Absolutely, because it's just like
Well, again,
it's just like it's just like all of the families who are benefited, just like Donald Trump's family, because of their ability and the access that his father had. So their benefit. So just like you can trace their lineage and find out where that money,
Amen.
you can trace it back to us and find out what we didn't get. Just like you can trace back, because see, his grandkids. And I'm just using him as an example because it's somebody that people can identify with. His grandkids, his kids, his daughter Ivanka's kids, who are very young, their kids hadn't even been conceived yet, are already set in life.
Yeah.
because of what they were able to benefit from way back when.
Barron's kids are set in.
Okay, and see, to me, these arguments they're great arguments, but they're not intellectually honest.
That's your
because
opinion.
well, again, let me finish.
Go ahead, finish. I want to bring Jamal in and give him an opportunity.
Let me finish. Okay, so how do we now? Those of you who don't know, who are about to learn, in my own family line, my grandmother
As much as you
was
need.
the product or the daughter of a black woman who was raped by a slave owner, her master. So how do we trace that back, and who do we charge with that?
Dan, no one's going to get this perfect. So
all I'm trying to say is, of course, no one's going to get it perfect,
Right.
but these things need to be considered when it comes to, you're talking about giving money back.
listen,
Which is the model for,
right? Go
let me finish.
Go ahead,
Let me finish
because
this.
we don't have a lot of time. Go ahead.
The model for the Japanese was easy. We knew what families we encamped.
We know who
That
owns
was very
slaves,
easy
too.
to do.
That's right. They kept
The Seminole
records.
Indians.
They kept
also.
records. They kept records.
We know
of
who owns slaves
That's
today.
right.
Okay.
We know who owns
Fine.
slaves.
But
It's all right. Go ahead. Go ahead. Let Jamal speak, Dan, because it's giving me. Go ahead,
Okay.
Jamal.
So we have more than that model for reparations, okay? One of the best and the most modern examples of reparations is actually what the government of Brazil did, because what many people who have studied this issue know is that Brazil was one of the biggest, if not the biggest place of the imports of Africans.
Yep.
So Brazil actually did a reparations thing. This is maybe about 10 years ago or so. And so it really shows. And it's not a check. It deals with the infrastructure, and it deals with healthcare, it deals with education, so on and so forth. So I encourage folks to look that up. Once again, a problem we have here is someone is saying, well, I never heard of this, or how are we going to get to this, or how do you do that? Well, that's because you've never studied the issue. Because all of these questions have already been asked and answered.
Amen.
This came up with the beginning of when Kevin Peterson started the reparations campaign.
Yep.
And as you know, I have issues with that because this whole question comes about who. One of my great mentors was a guy named Steve Coakley. He specialized in secret societies and so on like this. But in any event, his famous statement was, name the names. Okay, so we can't, when we say they are oppressing us, well, who is this mysterious they? You got to say who it is. So unlike the case that the brother is trying to make here, which is that how do you trail this stuff? Who knows who it is? Let me read you the list. The companies that are still in existence today, gazillion-dollar companies today that made their money from slavery or they funded it. The Lehman Brothers, Aetna, J.P. Morgan Chase, New York Life, Wells Fargo, Wachovia, N.M. Rothschild and Sons Bank in London, Norfolk Southern Railroad, E.W. Scripps Gannett, you know Gannett Media, USA Today, Fleet Boston, Bank of America, ring a bell, CSX Railroad, Canadian National Railway Company, Brown Brothers Harriman, Brooks Brothers, Barclays, AIG, US Life, Tiffany and Company, Harvard Law School, Princeton, Brown University, Yale, Penn, Columbia, Rutgers, Dartmouth, and University of Delaware. So once again, my brother, when you say stuff like, well, how will we do this and how will we do that?
So
This is my pet peeve in life. Don't talk about things that you don't know. Those are just the actives, not only the families. And that's just monetary. Now, when you're talking about the case of what happened to your ancestor, which is, of course, very unfortunate and unfortunately not uncommon, right? So what happens with that is, if that family is still alive, or if that family has amassed wealth, many of these people who are descendants or products of rape or interracial relationships have reconnected. So that would be a family situation. But the system that oppressed or caused that situation was a governmental mandate.
Yep.
And so the government would have to pay reparation, not in the form of an individual check to Tyrone and Pookie gets a new Cadillac. That's not what's happening. But for infrastructure change,
so Jamal, we got
the problems that they cause.
We got a couple of minutes. I want to give Dan a chance to respond to that list of names that you just said. Of folks where gives us a start. Dan, are you still there?
Okay, well, send them a bill.
Send him a bill. Okay.
Yeah, you got the names.
Yeah.
You know what they did.
Mm-hmm.
Bring them into court. Charge them with whatever law they violated. Charge them with that.
Because
They've already been. You should stop talking about things you don't know about.
Okay, first of all, First of all, will you kindly keep this on a civil level and stop making it personal? We only show your ignorance when you do that.
I am civil.
Right,
I'm saying you're making statements that you don't know about. Excuse me. I don't spout. I speak. This is that personal thing.
Right, we're not.
You asked me to respond.
Dan, we're not going to go there. Okay.
You asked me to respond. Let me respond.
Okay, but you pivoted from responding to going with that. I want your.
What I asked you to do was be civil.
What I asked you for was an answer to the list.
Okay, all right. So what I'm saying is, if you have a list, you have a list of all these people
you said send them
that send them, take them to court, get a ruling, and send them the bill, make them pay.
Okay. All right.
That is our system. What I was trying to say is that is our system. They've already been to court. There have been several reparations cases, which you were probably unaware of because you're completely unaware of the subject. So if you look at the case of Deirdre Farmer Pullman, who was one of the reparations cases, if you look at the other two cases that have gone before, or any of the information that's gone to evidence that's gone before Congress or anything, you would already know that. But you don't, and that's why you are spouting disinformation.
Okay, so here I do not spout, I do not spew, I speak. Okay. And as men, we ought to respect. Just because you don't like what I say, you ought to be respectful in how I say it, because I'm respectful in how you say it.
Right.
Everything you said.
Terms, sir.
Right.
Those are great vocabulary words.
All right, gentlemen, thank you. We've got to run. Jamal, thank you. I appreciate if you want to call back. We got a guest on 8 o'clock hour because I'd love to continue this conversation. Jamal, thank you for that education because I myself was not aware of that list, and I would love to obtain it from you.
I sent it to Hobbs.
Okay, because
I put it in the feed.
Oh, okay, all right. Because that's knowledge is power.
He's absolutely right.
Thank you, Dan. Dan Walker here every Wednesday from 8 to 9 a.m. on Sound Travels and Mom's Corner on Boston Praise Radio and TV. Thank you, Dan. Pastor Walker, appreciate it.
We're going to go on break.
We're going to go on and say. Yeah, we got to come.
I got a headache.
I got a headache, Doc. This is the spirited conversations that take place here on this broadcast. Like I said, whether I agree with people's opinions, they're entitled to them.
Well, but it goes back to the point that I made that the models they're already there.
Yeah.
You can actually trace back the lineage, and I know where Pastor Dan was trying to go with all the raping and all the things that happened in slavery that we were owned, and it's hard. No, it's not hard to track, right? And I think there's two separate issues. One issue Jamal hit on, where you have the structural racism, reparation, and then another issue is that you have the individual,
right?
You know what I mean? So in both ways, if you're coming from the angle that Jamal came from, and he's right with all the different companies that actually that profit from racism, and if you're coming from the angle that I was coming from, where you have groups in America, that were aggrieved
and they have been given reparation. And I was pointing out the fact that you have the Japanese and you have the Seminole Indians. So you have situations where they have already done this. This is not a new phenomenon.
Right.
You know, and I don't know where Pastor Dan was going with it, but that's the issue we have. We have among ourselves, we're split on what is due to us. You know, because of what the hard work of our ancestors. Yeah. You know, and this is the other hit.
Glad you're back,
this is the other hit I'm going to make, man. You know, America is not only, you know, it's not single here.
Yeah.
And when you look at history, black, dark-skinned slaves worked to build countries throughout Europe. Yeah. In fact, Europe economy was actually collapsing until they discovered Africa. You know what I mean? And the minerals and all the different precious resources in Africa, plus the dark skin. Because at one point, you know, and I'm going to go back to 1414 where the Portuguese actually picked up a group of Africans by the name of known as Berbers, who were very light-skinned people, brought them to Lisbon, spoke to them about what was going on in Africa, let them go back, and then went out and got the darker skinned people to actually work the land. But we'll talk about that later after the break.
The doctor is back in the house giving you a checkup from the neck up. You listen to the round table with Melvin. We'll take a break. We'll be right back.
I came up from the bottom, always rooting for the underdog. I wrote 300 songs in 1 year, Boogie will tell you I'm on it. I got unreleased songs for days, they don't want it. Eat any MC in the game, it ain't a challenge. If your music reflects who you are, then you's a coward.